Hello and welcome to Ride Revolution, your channel for all things rad electric rides. Today we are looking at a scooter called the RCB R16. It's an affordable scooter, a really good price point with a decent spec and some decent reviews online as well. So before we go any further here in sunny Sotogrande in Spain, let's take a closer look at the spec.
Weighing in at 15 kg, the RCB R16 is a middleweight scooter designed mainly for urban commuting. It has a peak power of 350 watts and an average motor rating of 250 watts, making it compliant with most EU countries' scooter laws. It has some standout features that set it apart from a number of other scooters in the same price bracket. Not only does it have a front suspension, but it also features rear suspension for a smoother ride. And with 8.5-inch solid rubber tyres, that suspension is very welcome. The upside of solid tyres is that they're puncture resistant. The downside is they do very little to soften the blow of potholes and other bumps in the road and can cause some serious pain in your wrists. Hopefully the suspension mitigates that. We'll find out later. I do like the inclusion of indicators, though I'm not sure how visible they'd be in the type of intense sunlight I'm filming in today. The aluminium alloy frame is a similar style to many other scooters in this price range, but that's fine, no need to reinvent the wheel, this form factor works. You can choose between 3 power modes, which carry a max speed of 12 km an hour, 20 km an hour, and 25 km an hour respectively. It has front and rear integrated lights and plenty of flashy shiny bits to keep you visible when it's dark. The brake is a single rear drum brake, which does the job relatively well and is quite fun to intentionally lock up and get a bit of sideways action if you're that way inclined. I'm a fan of the clean wiring, and generally I think this looks like a tidy little scooter. With multiple warehouses and servicing centres in the EU, you're not going to have to wait months for replacement parts from China if anything does go wrong, and all of this comes in at a price of €399, but at the time of recording is on sale for €299.
So now we know a little bit more about the scooter, let's take it for a ride.
Okay, let's go! First impressions of the ride on this scooter is that, despite the solid rubber tyres, it's actually quite comfortable to ride, though it's worth noting I'm riding on an exceptionally well looked after road that's making me realise how crap our roads are in the UK. That said, there are speed bumps here which give me a chance to test the suspension and handling a little, also to have some fun. And the front shocks eat up the initial impact with ease and even give me a little spring to hop with, and both the front and rear suspension absorb the impact of hitting the road again after the bump. One thing I always look for in a scooter is how secure the folding mechanism is. So many cheaper scooters can have a small amount of flex that comes from the folding mechanism even when it's locked into a riding position. This means you can get a small amount of travel front and back ways in the stem whilst riding, which isn't ideal from a number of perspectives, but handling and safety are the key issues here. Thanks to the thin profile on these tyres, it offers nimble cornering and handling. The downside to smaller and thinner tyres is stability, and this scooter can feel a little twitchy at times, but it's nothing unusual for a scooter of this size, and the suspension does some work to help with that. At the time of recording this video, I weigh 84 kilos or 185 pounds after enjoying the Spanish food and drink a little too much. But the max rider weight for this scooter is supposedly 120 kilos or 264 pounds. So if the acceleration is sluggish for me, then that's a benchmark for riders who are heavier than me. And look, a 250 watt motor is never going to be rapid, but this scooter accelerates relatively quickly, certainly fast enough to be a competent commuter scooter. That said, the real way of testing a scooter's performance for heavier riders is a hill test, so let's make our way to the hill. Okay, here we go. You can't see it too well from this angle, but this hill is fairly steep and not one I'd particularly enjoy tackling on foot. If this scooter has any chance of getting a 100 kilo rider up this hill, then it should be getting me up the hill fairly easily, and we made a good start with the scooter achieving a speed of around 20 km an hour towards the start. But as the incline kicked in, I was down around 10 km an hour, still not too bad, but it did get worse. As I lost momentum and as the incline gradually increased, I was at around 5 km an hour, which is basically walking pace. I don't have any problem with this necessarily because at least I'm not having to walk up the hill in 30-degree heat, but it became harder to balance on the scooter at this speed, and a couple of times I did have to take one foot off the scooter in order to kick off the ground and give myself some more speed to avoid stalling out. Now, I think it's a steeper hill than you'd usually find in most commuter cities, but my point here is that for a rider heavier than me, you'd have no chance of getting up this hill, and the scooter might even struggle on hills with gentler inclines than this one. So I think if you're over 100 kilos, this probably isn't the scooter for you unless you live in a flat area. So who is this scooter for? Well, this is actually a very capable commuter scooter for lighter riders in my opinion. It's comfortable, it handles well, and I have to say I feel pretty confident freewheeling on this downhill section I'm on right now. It's a scooter that feels solid underneath you and that earns your trust. The brakes are well set up, with the rear brake providing stopping power without snatching. Given the fact that you can pick this up for under £300 or €300 right now, and they have warehouse presence in Europe, I think this is a compelling commuter scooter for the price. Only 5 years ago, it was very difficult to find a scooter for this sort of price that featured suspension. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with the scooter. It's incredibly fun to ride and brings out my inner child. And its small form factor means it's pretty easy to store at home. Its 7Ah battery offers a range of up to 29 kilometers, and with me on the scooter, tackling hills and riding at top speed on the flat, I did manage to get a range of about 12 miles or 19 kilometers, which makes it a very usable commuter scooter. And with a charging time of 6 hours, you could charge it up whilst you're at work if you needed to. That said, it doesn't have a removable battery, which I always think is a useful feature on a commuter scooter, so you can chain the scooter up outside and just take the battery into your workplace with you for charging. But all in all, there's a lot to love about the scooter. It's got a bit of personality when you're riding it, and it's a nice antidote to the usual mundanity of commuting. But I'm a curmudgeonly reviewer, so I do have to find some downsides.
Okay, so I just talked about a few things that I really like about this scooter then. Let's talk about some gripes, as I do have a few. First one, the handlebars here. Really easy just to twist these around. They should be glued into place. There's no reason you'd really ever want those to travel, especially whilst you're riding. The stem, there's a little bit of travel in the stem, just backward and forwards. Only a tiny amount, but there's just no real reason that should be there. The big one for me is the placement of this charging port down here. It does mean that your front foot, when it's on the scooter, is just kind of, you don't really know where you want to put it just because it's slightly in the way, this raised bit here. And the charging port itself is hard to open, which is a bit finicky and annoying. I wish the foot plate was a little bit wider, but that's only a minor gripe, and it does help to keep the weight of the scooter down, to be fair. But the one that I really find it difficult to get around is that part of the folding mechanism is super easy. Most scooters, what you would do now is just push this down and click it into place. But on this, you have to slide this part here into the right place. And it's just hard to do. And I can't really... This is definitely right, by the way. This is the right way to fold this scooter. There you go. So now it's clicked into place, and that's great. It's lightweight and it's easy to carry, but that takes quite a bit of time and it's quite finicky. So if you're going on and off trains, hopping on and off buses, then that's a little bit annoying. But those things aside, especially for the price right now, this is a very solid scooter. Right, so you've heard my thoughts there, and look, I do think for about 250 quid is what I'm seeing it for in the UK, about the same in dollars in the US, about the same in euros in Europe. That's a really good price for a scooter of this quality. That's not the list price, it's more up around 350, 399 I think, but you can get it for about 250, and if you can, then this is a really good deal, because that front suspension is something you don't usually get on scooters of that sort of price range. It's just well built and well thought out as well, especially for a scooter of this price. A few gripes, but I think that's normal for an accessible entry-level price point. I have put a link in the description of this video so that you can get this for guaranteed the best price. So click on that if you want more information on it. And if you've got any questions about it, then just feel free to ask me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed, then please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And more importantly than that, have a nice day and thanks for watching. Take care.